What if I told you that the woman you're chasing right now, the one who makes your heart race, who seems absolutely perfect on paper, might actually be the biggest mistake of your life? Not because she's a bad person necessarily, but because certain personality patterns create relationships that slowly drain the life out of you. And most guys don't see the warning signs until they're 3 years deep, wondering where their happiness went. Here's the truth about brutal relationships. They rarely start brutal, they start exciting, intense, passionate. That's what makes them so dangerous. Now, before we get into this, I want to be crystal clear about something. This isn't about bashing women or painting any gender with a broad brush. This is about recognizing behavioral patterns that lead to misery regardless of who exhibits them. These same dynamics exist in reverse too, and plenty of men display identical traits. What we're talking about today is protecting your peace, your mental health, your sense of self, and honestly, your entire future. Because the wrong relationship doesn't just waste your time, it fundamentally changes you as a person. It makes you smaller, more anxious, less confident. And some guys never fully recover from that damage. Let me show you how this actually works in the real world, because understanding the psychology behind these patterns is the only way to spot them before you're already trapped. Type 1. The scorekeeper. You take her out to that expensive restaurant she's been wanting to try for months. You spend $200, have a wonderful night, the conversation flows perfectly, and everything feels absolutely right. Fast forward 3 weeks. You forget to text her good morning one day because work was completely insane with back-to-back meetings, and suddenly you hear, "Remember when I drove 45 minutes across town to bring you soup when you were sick, and you can't even send me a simple text in the morning?" This is the scorekeeper. She treats the relationship like an accounting ledger, where every transaction gets recorded. Every kind gesture you make isn't received as genuine love or affection. It's logged as credit in her mental spreadsheet, and every perceived slight, no matter how small or unintentional, that's a withdrawal against your account. The fundamental problem is that her math never adds up in your favour. You're always in debt somehow. Think about this for a second. In a healthy relationship, you do things for each other because you genuinely want to. Because seeing the other person happy brings you joy, not because you're building a case file for future arguments. The scorekeeper can never truly receive your love and appreciate it in the moment, because she's too busy measuring it against what she believes she's owed. The psychology behind this pattern usually stems from deep-seated insecurity and fear of abandonment. She doesn't trust that you'll stay voluntarily, so she creates an elaborate system where you're perpetually indebted to her. If you owe her, you can't leave without being the bad guy. It's a control mechanism disguised as relationship fairness. So what do? If you notice early on that someone meticulously tracks every favour, every nice gesture, every sacrifice, and throws it back during arguments as ammunition, that's your exit sign right there. Healthy relationships aren't transactions where you need to balance the books. The moment love becomes a ledger, you've already lost the relationship you actually wanted. Type 2. The chaos creator. Everything is going smoothly in your relationship. You had a genuinely nice weekend together, no drama whatsoever. Life feels calm and peaceful for once. But here's where it gets interesting, and pay close attention to this pattern. She seems almost uncomfortable with the peace. Stability makes her restless, almost agitated. So suddenly, out of nowhere, there's a problem that needs immediate attention. Maybe she found an old text from your female coworker from 6 months ago. Maybe she's upset about something you said last week, but she remembers it differently than how it actually happened. Maybe there's a brand new crisis with her family that requires your immediate emotional bandwidth and full attention. The peaceful weekend is now a distant memory. The chaos creator needs turbulence to feel alive and connected. Stability genuinely makes her nervous, because in her psychological framework, calm means something bad is brewing beneath the surface. So she creates the bad thing first to feel in control of when the explosion happens. Dating her means you'll never have a peaceful week for long. Just when you think you've finally got everything figured out and can relax, the ground shifts beneath your feet. You become addicted to solving problems that shouldn't exist in the first place. And here's the trap that keeps guys stuck. The makeup after the chaos feels so incredibly good that it almost seems worth all the turbulence. That's completely by design, whether she realizes it or not. Her nervous system has been calibrated to dysfunction, often from childhood experiences where love and chaos were intertwined. She literally doesn't know how to bond through joy, contentment, and peaceful connection. She only knows how to bond through conflict followed by intense resolution. You become her emotional regulation tool rather than her actual partner in life. So what do? Watch carefully how she handles extended good times. Does peace make her restless and irritable? Does she manufacture fights when things are going well for too long? Trust that behavioral pattern far more than any words she speaks. Type 3. The projector. She accuses you of flirting with the waitress when you literally just said "thank you for the food" while making normal eye contact. She's absolutely convinced your female friend from college secretly wants to sleep with you despite zero evidence supporting this belief. She checks your phone when you're in the shower, questions your whereabouts constantly, and treats every single interaction you have with another woman as potential betrayal waiting to happen. But wait, let that sink in for a moment. Why does her mind travel to these places so quickly and so automatically? The projector often accuses you of exactly what she herself is capable of doing. Not always what she's actively doing right now, but what lives comfortably in her own psychology and moral framework. Her accusations are actually windows into her own relationship with temptation, dishonesty, and boundary crossing. People generally assume others think the way they do. This one is particularly devastating because it puts you on permanent defense in your own relationship. You start changing your behavior proactively, avoiding female colleagues at work events, turning down nights out with your longtime friends, all to manage her insecurity and prevent the next accusation. And guess what? It's never enough. Because the fundamental problem was never your behavior in the first place. It's her internal landscape and the stories she tells herself. I knew a guy named Derek who married this type of woman thinking it would improve with commitment. 3 years in, he realized he'd systematically given up every friendship he had, barely talked to his own sister anymore, and was still getting accused of infidelity on a regular basis. He'd become completely isolated, and that isolation made leaving even harder because she was all he had left. So what do? Constant unfounded jealousy isn't love, despite how it might feel initially. It's control disguised as care and passion. If her trust issues require you to progressively shrink your entire life, you're not in a relationship. You're in a cage with comfortable furniture. Type 4. The perpetual victim. Every single job she's ever lost. Terrible boss who had it out for her personally. Every friendship that ended. They were toxic people who betrayed her trust. Every ex-boyfriend she's ever had. Abusive, crazy, manipulative, or somehow all three simultaneously. Notice a pattern emerging here? The perpetual victim has never made a genuine mistake in her entire life, at least not one she's willing to own publicly. The entire world has conspired against her at every turn, and now you've arrived as her rescuer, the one good person who finally understands her. That role feels good at first. Really good. You want to be her hero, the exception to her painful history. Here's what most people miss though, and this is crucial to understand. If literally everyone she's ever known has wronged her significantly, what happens when you inevitably make a human mistake? You immediately become the next villain in her ongoing story. There's no grace extended, no genuine understanding, no working through difficulties together as a team. Just you joining the long list of people who hurt her and proved they couldn't be trusted. This pattern almost always indicates an inability to self-reflect honestly. Without genuine self-reflection, there's no personal growth possible. Without growth, the same conflicts repeat forever in slightly different costumes with different people. So what do? Listen carefully to how she talks about her past relationships and experiences. Does she ever take genuine responsibility for anything? Does she acknowledge her role in situations that went wrong? Accountability isn't weakness or self-flagellation. It's the absolute foundation of being a functional partner capable of real growth. Type 5, the love bomber. 2 weeks into dating, she's already talking about what your future kids might look like and discussing baby names. 1 month in, she wants you to meet her entire extended family at the upcoming Thanksgiving dinner. She's texting constantly throughout every day, planning elaborate vacations for next year, saying, "I love you" before. You've even navigated a real disagreement together. It feels absolutely amazing, doesn't it? After dating people who seemed lukewarm and ambivalent, here's someone who's completely all in from day one. But here's the thing you need to understand. Authentic love takes real time to develop. What you're experiencing isn't mature love. It's intensity masquerading as depth. And intensity always has a come down when reality sets in. The love bomber typically has an anxious attachment style running on overdrive. She's not actually seeing you as a complete person with flaws and complexity. She's seeing the idea of a relationship, the fantasy of partnership, and you happen to fit the role she's been casting in her imagination. The moment the fantasy inevitably cracks, which it will because you're an imperfect human being, her feelings shift just as rapidly as they developed. The same woman who adored everything about you suddenly can't stand minor habits she previously found endearing. A close friend of mine, Marcus, went through this exact situation. She was planning their wedding by month 2 and talking about venue locations. By month 6, she'd completely devalued him as a person, wondering aloud why she'd ever been attracted to him in the first place. He was fundamentally the same person throughout. Her fantasy just couldn't survive contact with 3-dimensional reality. So what do? Pace is your friend in dating. Someone who genuinely respects the natural development of a relationship is someone who sees you as an actual person. Someone who rushes past all the normal stages is chasing a feeling and filling a void, not building a real partnership with you. Type 6. The emotional hostage taker. You try to express a legitimate concern about something in the relationship. Before you can even finish your sentence completely, she's already crying and spiraling, talking about how she apparently can't do anything right, how you probably want to leave her anyway. How? She's the worst girlfriend ever. Your valid concern completely evaporates as you scramble to comfort her and reassure her she's actually wonderful. Sound familiar at all? The emotional hostage taker weaponizes vulnerability as a defense mechanism. Every single time you need to address something legitimately bothering you, the conversation immediately becomes about managing her emotional reaction rather than solving the actual problem together. Your needs become essentially unspeakable because the emotional cost of voicing them is simply too high. Over time, you stop bringing things up entirely. You swallow your frustrations repeatedly. You become a shell of your former self, performing happiness and contentment constantly to avoid triggering her meltdowns. That's not partnership in any meaningful sense. That's hostage negotiation disguised as a loving relationship. This dynamic can look like love initially because she seems so sensitive, so tender, so emotionally available, but genuine sensitivity doesn't prevent important conversations from happening. It welcomes them and creates space for them. Just approach gently and with care. So what do? Test this dynamic early in the relationship before you're deeply invested. Bring up something relatively small that bothered you and observe the response carefully. Does she get curious about your feelings and want to understand? Or does she immediately collapse emotionally, making you the comforter instead of the person with a concern? That pattern scales dramatically. What happens with small issues happens with major ones too. Type 7. The competitor. You get a well-deserved promotion at work after months of effort. Instead of celebrating this milestone with you enthusiastically, there's an immediate comment about how her job is actually harder and more stressful. You're genuinely excited about a personal accomplishment you're proud of, and somehow the conversation shifts within minutes to her own achievements and credentials. Every win you have seems to somehow diminish her in her own mind. The competitor can't be genuinely happy for you because your success feels like her personal failure in comparison. Relationships become a zero-sum game in her framework where only one person can be winning at any given time, and she's determined that person will be her. This typically stems from deep insecurity and often childhood dynamics, where love felt conditional on achievement and being the best. She learned early that being less than someone meant being fundamentally unlovable, so she can never let you be more than her at anything that matters. But here's where it gets really damaging over time. You start unconsciously dimming yourself to keep the peace. You downplay your achievements, hesitate to share genuinely good news, become systematically smaller to protect her fragile ego. Meanwhile, she continues elevating herself at every opportunity. The imbalance grows steadily until you barely recognize the confident person you used to be before this relationship. So what do? Genuine partners are teammates working toward shared goals, not opponents competing for limited resources. Watch carefully if she can truly celebrate your wins without immediately making them about herself and her accomplishments. This reveals everything you need to know about whether she sees your success as mutual victory or as a personal threat. Type 8. The conditional lover. I love you, but I'd love you even more if you dressed a bit differently. You'd be basically perfect if you just got that better job. I'm definitely attracted to you, but I wish you were taller, funnier, more ambitious, or less sensitive about things. The conditional lover accepts you with 1,000 asterisks attached. Her love always comes packaged with a renovation project that never ends. You're not quite right exactly as you are right now. You need ongoing adjustments and improvements to earn her full acceptance. Let me be very clear about something important. Growth in relationships is normal and healthy. Supporting each other to become better versions of yourselves is genuinely beautiful when it's mutual, but that's completely different from someone whose acceptance is permanently pending your transformation into someone else entirely. The message you internalize over time is absolutely devastating to your self-worth. You're not enough as you are right now. You never will be enough. There's always another hoop to jump through, another change to make, another condition to meet before you qualify for unconditional love. A guy I know, Terrell, spent 4 years of his life trying desperately to become what his girlfriend wanted him to be. He changed his entire wardrobe, switched careers, abandoned hobbies he loved, even distanced himself from his friend group. When they finally broke up, he told me he had absolutely no idea who he even was anymore. He'd renovated himself into a stranger. So what do? Notice if her affection and warmth increases when you comply with her preferences and decreases when you don't. Real love doesn't fluctuate dramatically based on your performance of her ideal version of you. You're supposed to be a partner in her life, not an ongoing project she's managing. Here's where everything we've discussed connects into one crucial insight. All 8 of these types share one common thread running through them. They make the relationship primarily about managing them and their reactions rather than building something meaningful together. Your energy goes toward preventing their negative responses instead of creating a positive life alongside them. The right partner doesn't require you to abandon yourself piece by piece. She doesn't need you to shrink, perform constantly, or walk on eggshells every day. She creates space for you to be imperfect, to grow at your own pace, to have needs of your own that matter. Think about the relationships that have genuinely drained you in the past. I'd bet they had at least one of these patterns present, probably more than one working together. And here's what nobody tells you directly. You can love someone deeply and still recognize they're not capable of the partnership you deserve. Choosing wisely isn't about finding someone perfect, because that person doesn't exist. It's about finding someone functional, whose patterns complement yours, rather than exploit your specific weaknesses. The goal isn't becoming paranoid or dismissing every woman at the first sign of normal humanity. We're all works in progress with our own issues to work through. The goal is to stop ignoring red flags because the chemistry is good, to trust patterns over promises, and to remember that the most attractive person in the world becomes deeply unattractive when they consistently make your life worse. You get one life. You get limited years of health, energy, and genuine opportunity. The person you choose to share that with either multiplies what you have or steadily divides it. Choose accordingly and don't apologize for having standards. And remember this: recognizing these patterns isn't just about avoiding certain people. It's about recognizing what you might tolerate because you don't believe you deserve better treatment. Sometimes the hardest question isn't, is she like this? But why am I okay with accepting this? That question changes everything about your future.